affect a lot of people pulling for you in your calling.
Senator Arano.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Horowitz, you just testified just now that President Obama's comments about the Clinton investigation in 2015 caused you concern. So you must be very concerned about President Trump's ongoing comments about the current Mueller investigation, including his thoughts about his pardon powers.
What I said was, as we laid out here, the comments of President Obama at the time were of concern to the people doing the investigating. So frankly, what we were looking at is what individuals told us. I'm not going to speak to what the reaction would be in the FBI or elsewhere with regard to current concerns. Frankly, the director can speak to that question better than I.
So, Director, do you have concerns about the President Trump's ongoing comments about the Mueller investigation, including his use of his pardon powers?
Senator, there are an awful lot of opinions being expressed out there on an awful lot of topics about our work. What I try to make sure our folks are focused on is the work itself and following the rules. And I will add that there's a reason why I always say that we are going to do our work independently and objectively, no matter who likes it.
Thank you. That's very reassuring. Unfortunately, these kinds of ongoing comments do sway the public. When Director Comey came before this committee on May 3rd and he was fired on May 9th, some of us on this committee, including myself, questioned why he made all those derogatory and highly prejudicial comments about Hillary at his press conference in July. So, Director Wray, I want to make sure, commenting publicly about unchargeable conduct is not FBI policy then or now, correct?
Senator, I'm not aware of any policy that permitted it at the time, but as I said, we're working on policies to make even more clear things that may have been less clear before.
Good, thank you. Mr. Horowitz, I'd like to follow up on your answer to Senator Graham about the difference between gross negligence and extremely careless. You said it was just a political difference, but that's not true. There's a legal difference. In fact, you spent a few pages of your report explaining the difference, and you made clear how unified your team was on its early decision, or the FBI team was on its early decision that there was no evidence that Senator Clinton intentionally or willfully mishandled classified information. And if she had, that would be what they would have considered gross negligence. So your answer to Senator Graham made it sound as if the determination that Senator Clinton did not have the requisite intent necessary for a criminal charge was a close call and a late call, but that was not the case. I'd like to give you a chance to correct that misimpression.
That certainly wasn't my intention in leaving that impression. I think the concern that we highlight here is that by drafting a statement where he said he believed there was gross negligence and turning it into extremely careless, was precisely the concern that many people commented on, which is people viewed it as close and roughly one and the same. I understand that the former has a legal meaning and the latter doesn't. But to the public at large, that was the concern that the prosecutors and others had about his comment.
I think it was really important for Director Comey to be very careful in the use of these kinds of terms. I mean, not to mention that he should never have editorialized in such a way to begin with. And really, the showing that needed to happen for any kind of criminal prosecution of Senator Clinton was that there had to be a requisite intent, and there was no requisite intent. So in my view, when Director Comey, even when he said extremely careless, I think that was being very careless on his part. I wanted to go on to something else that was brought out at this hearing. One of my colleagues said earlier that clearly Strzok did not want Donald Trump elected. If that is true, and this is for either one of you, if that is true, why do you think that he did not leak any information about the Trump-Russian investigation that was also ongoing during the time of the 2016 election? Care to comment?
The argument he made to us as to why there was evidence he wasn't biased is precisely that argument. I don't think that necessarily closes off the bias question simply because he didn't violate a rule regarding leaking, though.
Well, the fact is that the public did not know that there was an investigation over Russia's attempts to interfere with our elections or any of the Trump team's involvement with those Russian efforts. So reasonable people could conclude, and I conclude that the bottom line is that Russia and Comey helped to elect Trump. And Russia did its part by sowing discord among Americans, spreading lies about Hillary Clinton, and offering help to the Trump family and campaign at every turn. And Comey pitched in by keeping the FBI investigation into the Trump-Russia situation a secret, while publicly trashing Secretary Clinton in July and reopening the investigation in late October, even though Comey knew about the Weiner emails a full month before finally coming out with the publicly that he was going to basically reopen the Clinton investigation. So as far as reasonable people could conclude, James Comey tipped the scales further in Trump's favor. Is there anything in your report that argues against this reasonable conclusion?
Senator, we don't go into the impact that had on the election. That's not something we would even have any ability or expertise to.
I say reasonable people could conclude that Russia and Comey helped to elect President Trump. And in fact, during the time of the election, candidate Trump, was very happy with what was going on with Comey, and in fact invited the Russians to engage in further efforts to go after Mrs. Clinton. So, I just want to know, there have been calls for a special counsel. This is for you, Mr. Horowitz. Should there be further investigations into what happened regarding the Clinton investigation?
As Inspector General, that's most clearly not my decision to make. And the last thing I'm going to do is step outside the authorities you've given me, the Congress, and the IG Act.
So you can't respond to that, Director Wray?
No.
Is there anything in this report that indicates that there should be another special counsel or further investigation of the Clinton matter?
Well, Senator, the decision about whether or not and when to appoint special counsel is one that's reserved to the Attorney General or the Deputy Attorney General if the Attorney General is recused. And one of the key takeaways from this report is that the FBI Director shouldn't, as Inspector General Horowitz just said, get out of his lane. So I'm going to rely on that.
So has Deputy Director Rosenstein said to you that you should begin an investigation into the Clinton matter?
Senator, I can't comment on my conversations with the Deputy Attorney General about investigations.
Thank you.
I've been told that one Republican and one Democrat